Incarnate, the journey of a man who lost his family to a cruel demon and vowed to end the terror while protecting the soul of a child. The film begins by showing a woman named Lindsay who has just finished shopping with her son, Cameron. At this point, they only live together because Lindsay's husband, Dan, has recently divorced her. Lindsay separated from Dan because he was always drunk and often committed violence against her and Cameron. The abuse Dan did even once caused Cameron's arm to be broken. Because of that, Lindsay filed for divorce. When Lindsay and Cameron were about to enter the house, Cameron saw a strange man talking to himself across the street. At home, Lindsay received several phone calls from Dan asking about Cameron's condition. However, since Lindsay was deeply hurt by Dan, she did not allow him to meet Cameron. At night, when Cameron was about to sleep, he heard a strange sound coming from the living room. Cameron quickly checked it out, and suddenly, the same strange man he had seen earlier forced his way into the house and began attacking him. But soon after, Cameron suddenly became incredibly strong and immediately killed the man. It was revealed that Cameron's eyes had turned red, and the movie officially begins. The scene then shifts to a man named Seth, who is at a nightclub. Seth came there to find a man named Henry. Seth had a mission to take Henry away from that place. At first, Henry refused to go with him. But Seth quickly made Henry realize that everything was just an illusion created by the woman next to him. That woman turned out to be a succubus demon who had possessed Henry's body. Seth's arrival at that place was to destroy the illusion created by the succubus and drive the demon out of Henry's body. Realizing that it was all just an illusion, Henry finally agreed to go with Seth. Of course, the succubus demon did not allow that to happen, so the two of them immediately ran away from its pursuit. Eventually, Seth and Henry managed to escape from the demon's illusion.
Come with me, Henry.
After that incident, Seth and Henry returned to the real world. In reality, Seth could not walk and was confined to a wheelchair. After completing their task, Seth and his two colleagues, Oliver and Riley, immediately went back to their headquarters.
Buddy, how many fingers am I holding up?
Yeah, or am I?
It was revealed that Seth was an exorcist, or more precisely, an incarnate. Both incarnates and exorcists share the same mission of casting out demons, but the difference is that incarnates expel demons by entering the subconscious of the possessed person and driving the entity out from within. Every time a demon possesses someone, it creates an illusion to make the possessed individual comfortable and unwilling to leave. While the person is trapped inside the illusion, the demon feeds on their life energy until the host eventually dies. Usually, the illusion reflects the hidden desires of the possessed person. For example, when Henry was possessed by the succubus, the demon created an illusion where Henry was surrounded by many women. This illusion matched Henry's buried desire to be admired by women, since in reality, no woman wanted to date him. Because his desires were fulfilled inside the illusion, Henry became more attached to it, which allowed the succubus to maintain control over his body. The role of an incarnate is to shatter such illusions so that the possessed person can regain awareness. In doing so, the demon is also forced to leave their body. While incarnates expel demons from within, traditional exorcists such as priests attempt to drive them out from the outside through predetermined rituals and prayers. Seth's work was extremely dangerous. If he encountered a demon stronger than himself, he could be harmed in the real world, or even risked having the demon transfer into his body. During his missions, Seth had a strict time limit of about 8 minutes. While inside the illusion, he could not sense how long he had been there, because time and clocks would completely stop. That was why his colleagues, Oliver and Riley, were responsible for monitoring the time he spent inside the illusion. If Seth approached the 8-minute limit, Oliver would inject a serum to wake him up. Should Seth remain inside for longer than 8 minutes, he would become permanently trapped in the illusion, and his body would be taken over by the demon. Despite the dangers, Seth continued his work in order to search for the demon he hated the most. Several years earlier, Seth once had a small family consisting of his wife, Anna, and their son, Jake. After getting married, Seth left his dangerous work behind and chose to live a normal life with his family. But all of Seth's happiness suddenly vanished when a demon deliberately killed his wife and child. The demon possessed a woman named Maggie and crashed into the car driven by Seth, Anna, and Jake. The accident killed Anna and Jake, while Seth was left completely paralyzed. Knowing that it was the work of a demon, Seth decided to return to being an incarnate in order to avenge the deaths of his wife and son. Because he did not know the demon's real name, Seth simply referred to it as Maggie. For years, Seth continued hunting that demon by entering the bodies of possessed people, but he had yet to find it. Then Riley told Seth that a Vatican envoy named Camilla wanted to meet with him. Seth immediately went to see her. Camilla explained that she had come to ask for his help. A few months earlier, the Vatican had received news that a boy named Cameron had been possessed by a powerful demon. The Vatican had already sent several priests to perform an exorcism on Cameron, but the demon was so strong that they failed. Now, the only remaining option was to seek the aid of an incarnate. Camilla had prepared a large sum of money to persuade Seth to take the job. Surprisingly, Seth refused, saying that the Vatican had deceived him in the past. Before Camilla's arrival, another envoy from the Vatican had once told Seth that someone was possessed by Maggie. But when Seth investigated, the demon turned out to be nothing more than a succubus. Because his work was extremely dangerous, Seth had to be selective, choosing only cases that might actually lead him to Maggie so as not to waste time and energy. Camilla then insisted that she was certain the demon possessing Cameron was Maggie, the very one Seth had been hunting all along. She explained that a priest named Felix, who had been Seth's mentor in becoming an incarnate, was the one who told her about Maggie possessing Cameron's body. This revelation left Seth torn about whether he should help Cameron or not. Before leaving, Camilla handed Seth her card in case he changed his mind and decided to take on the exorcism.
In the last 6 months.
Take her out.
After that, Seth went to meet Felix to ask directly whether the demon possessing Cameron's body was truly Maggie. Felix confirmed that it was indeed Maggie. He then introduced a man named Luca, who had once worked as an incarnate like Seth. Unfortunately, Luca had failed in an exorcism, and his body was taken over by a demon. The demon that possessed Luca was the one who told Felix about the identity of the entity inside Cameron. Felix further explained that he had created a serum called C79, which could grant an additional 10 seconds of time. The serum was made from Luca's blood sample. It would be especially useful in dire situations. For instance, if Seth remained inside a demon's illusion for the full 8 minutes and was about to be possessed. With the serum, he would gain an extra 10 seconds to control his body, even though the demon had already entered him. During those 10 seconds, Seth could choose to commit suicide, ensuring that the demon perished with him. Felix urged Seth to take the serum in case he needed it, but Seth refused, saying he did not need it at the moment. He was confident he could kill the demon without it. Seth then called Camilla to discuss Cameron's case in more detail.
What is it? I found the light.
I'm not planning on dying. All right, Camilla.
Camilla explained that Cameron had become possessed after making physical contact with someone already possessed by a demon. From that moment, the malevolent entity had entered Cameron's body. Afterward, Camilla and Seth went to Cameron's house.
Transfer.
Physical contact, keeping her away from the boy.
Wait, whether or not...
Dr. Amber has employed a cutting-edge method.
Upon arriving, Camilla told Lindsay that she had brought someone who could help. After some discussion, Lindsay allowed Seth to proceed, hoping he could drive the demon out of Cameron. Seth immediately went to see Cameron to confirm for himself whether the entity was indeed Maggie.
I'm out of here.
Sure enough, the moment Seth confronted him, the demon possessing Cameron instantly recognized who he was, and even recalled killing Seth's family. The demon revealed its true name to be Ash, and declared that it wanted to make Seth's life miserable by hurting those he loved. Convinced at last that this was Maggie, Seth quickly called Oliver and Riley, ordering them to come to Cameron's house with the necessary equipment for the incarnate process. Oliver and Riley quickly prepared all the necessary equipment.
You see the black streaks in Cameron?
Into Cameron's subconscious.
Where's all this stuff?
In Cameron's room, they set up a sensor connected to a monitor. Through the monitor, they could see Cameron's aura merged with the demon's aura. Seth explained that in order to enter Cameron's subconscious, he had to be in a near-death state. For that reason, an EKG device was attached to his body to monitor his condition continuously. Once everything was ready, Seth began the process of entering Cameron's subconscious.
Of you to join us.
Inside Cameron's mind, Cameron was with his father in a park. Seth approached Cameron trying to start a conversation. Suddenly, Cameron told Seth that his stomach was bleeding heavily.
Nice catch.
You're bleeding.
Okay, sir, please.
The demon, disguised as Cameron's father, quickly led Cameron away, while several people in the park blocked Seth from following. It was clear that the demon was trying to force Seth out of Cameron's subconscious. Monitoring his vital signs, Oliver and Riley began to panic when Seth's condition suddenly dropped. Fearing disaster, Oliver injected him with a serum that pulled Seth back into consciousness. Seth realized then that Maggie was no ordinary demon. It was far stronger than most. His first attempt to exorcise it had completely failed. Seth then asked where Cameron's father was. He planned to use Dan to help call Cameron back and break the illusion Maggie had created. In Cameron's illusion, Seth had noticed that Cameron wanted nothing more than to spend time with his father. But Lindsay had never allowed him to see Dan. Seth believed that if Cameron met his real father, he would finally awaken from the demon's illusion. Lindsay then told Seth where Dan could be found. Without wasting time, Seth and Camilla went to a bar to find him.
Thank you.
Son's in trouble. I need you to come with me.
Seth explained to Dan that Cameron was in grave danger and needed him immediately. At first, Dan refused, but Seth resorted to force, compelling him to come along. In the end, Dan agreed to go with Seth. When they arrived at Cameron's house, Dan was shocked to see his son's dreadful condition. Despite everything, Dan truly loved Cameron and could not bear to see him possessed by a demon. Seth then asked Dan to call Cameron's name and share a memory that only the two of them knew. Before entering the room, Seth reminded Dan not to touch Cameron, as Maggie could transfer into his body. Dan then entered Cameron's room and began calling out his name, apologizing for everything he had done to him.
Dad?
Cameron awoke from the illusion and told his father that he forgave him. Cameron also said that he loved Dan deeply. Just as Dan was about to express his love in return, the demon Maggie suddenly took control of Cameron's body and brutally killed Dan.
Can we go to the park again?
Oh my God.
The police soon arrived to remove Dan's corpse. Terrified by how easily the demon had killed him, Lindsay grew even more fearful. Afterward, Lindsay asked Seth to explain why he was helping Cameron. Seth revealed the story of his small family who had been murdered by Maggie. He admitted that his true reason for coming was not simply to help Cameron, but to finally defeat Maggie. Hearing his tragic past, Lindsay felt pity for him. While they were all trying to think of another way to save Cameron, Riley delivered grim news. The demon had begun consuming Cameron's life energy. If it continued, Cameron's life would soon be in danger. He had only about 2 hours left to survive. Realizing this, Seth rushed to see Felix. His plan was to ask Felix to perform an external exorcism while Seth attacked the demon from within. But when he arrived, Felix's place was in chaos. Seth searched for him and eventually found Felix unconscious. When Felix woke, he explained that he had attempted to take another blood sample from Luca, but Luca went berserk and caused destruction everywhere. As Seth was about to leave, he suddenly realized that Felix himself had been possessed. The demon inside forced Seth to kill Felix by slashing his throat. After Felix's death, Seth took the C-79 serum, knowing he would need it. This time, he was ready to risk his life to defeat the demon and save Cameron. Cameron reminded Seth of his own son, and because of that, Seth had no hesitation in laying down his life for him. Seth then returned to Cameron's house. Before entering Cameron's subconscious, he asked Lindsay to give him something meaningful to Cameron. Lindsay handed him a ring, an item Cameron always carried to bed, making it deeply precious to him. Seth then instructed Oliver to inject the C-79 serum once the 8-minute limit had passed. The serum would grant him just enough extra time to commit suicide and take the demon down with him. Seth prepared himself and entered Cameron's subconscious once more.
Sir.
Inside, Cameron and Dan were enjoying themselves at a carnival. Seth approached and told Cameron that the man beside him was not his real father, but a demon. Everything Cameron was experiencing there was nothing more than an illusion. Seth explained that his body was currently possessed by Maggie, who was disguising itself as Dan. At first, Cameron didn't believe him until the false Dan's eyes suddenly turned pitch black. Only then did Cameron realize Seth was telling the truth, and he chose to go with him. To speed their escape, Seth asked Cameron his favorite color. When Cameron said blue, a bright blue door suddenly appeared. As Cameron rushed toward it, the false Dan attacked Seth, and the door refused to open. Forced into battle, Seth fought the demon.
Go through the door, Cameron, now! Remember?
In a desperate move, he burned it with the cross necklace he carried. With the demon weakened, Seth smashed through the blue door and urged Cameron to escape with him through a window. At last, both Seth and Cameron awoke in the real world. Everyone rejoiced, relieved that Cameron had been saved. But then, an unexpected twist occurred. Seth suddenly found himself in a hospital. There, Anna and Jake were by his side, watching over him as he lay in a coma following the terrible accident. Overwhelmed with joy, Seth believed that everything he had endured had been nothing more than a dream caused by his coma. After a long struggle, Seth was finally able to see Anna and Jake again. But the happiness did not last, because he realized it was nothing more than an illusion. He noticed that both the hospital clock and his watch had stopped at the same time, proof that he was still trapped inside the illusion. Seth tried to escape, but suddenly he was attacked by a demon disguised as Lindsay. Running desperately from the creature, he eventually came across a blue door. The moment he stepped inside, the demon struck again.
I'll stop fighting.
At first, Seth thought Cameron had managed to break free from Maggie's grasp, but in reality, the demon was still holding him captive. Seth demanded that the demon release Cameron and, in exchange, allowed it to take over his own body. In the real world, Cameron was freed from Maggie's illusion. Lindsay was overjoyed to see her son return to normal. Yet, in the middle of that relief, they noticed Seth's body had now been overtaken by the demon. Oliver quickly injected him with the C-79 serum. The serum restored Seth's awareness, but the demon still remained inside him. With all his strength, Seth crawled toward a ledge, determined to commit suicide by throwing himself from a great height, ensuring Maggie's death along with his own. In the end, Seth succeeded. He died, and with him, Maggie was destroyed. Everyone, Oliver, Riley, Camilla, Lindsay, and Cameron, was devastated by Seth's sacrifice. Lindsay thanked him for saving Cameron's life. Camilla, however, was unwilling to let Seth go so easily. She called for medics to revive him, using defibrillation to restart his heart.
Let's move! Go again. Clear. Lightning shot. Clear.
After several attempts, Seth's heart began beating again, and he regained consciousness. Reaching out, he asked Camilla to hold his hand. But in a shocking twist, the demon was still inside Seth. Camilla did not realize that what had been revived was not Seth, but Maggie. When she touched his hand, the demon immediately transferred from Seth into her. At that moment, Seth was pronounced dead. In truth, they should never have revived him. If Seth had been allowed to die, Maggie would have perished with him. But Camilla's attempt to save him gave the demon the perfect chance to escape. By touching Seth's possessed body, Camilla became Maggie's new host, and with that, the story came to an end.